welcome to Jazz Zone Together, our online jazz community where we will provide jazz education resources, interviews with jazz educators, artists, and celebrities, along with valuable tips and repertoire suggestions. Today, we are honored and extremely pleased to be joined by Grammy nominee and world-renowned jazz vocalist, KIM NAZARIAN. KIM has performed with New York Voices for the past 37 years. In addition to her performing career, she teaches jazz vocal students at Ithaca College, as well as maintaining her own private teaching studio. Now I'll turn the mic over to Dick Dunscomb to conduct the interview with KIM. Dick, take it away.
Thank you, Bob. Oh, I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to this one. KIM NAZARIAN, it's so beautiful to see you.
Well, and back at you, sir. It's been a long time since I've seen you. I have many, many fond memories, and I've just always looked up to you as one of my heroes in the world of jazz education. You've always been so generous and faithful and loyal and dedicated to those of us who have kind of come up through the ranks. And I just appreciate you and all that you've done as well.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. How beautiful that is. Well, so we've got a lot to talk about because we go back a few years. And
yeah, I didn't have any gray hair when I first met you.
Well, that's another story, So anyway, we would like to start our interviews not with New York Voices or your career, but the beginning. How did you start getting involved in music, and what led you to pursue music as your career path?
Well, I think one of my first musical memories is when I was 5. And I asked my parents if I could take a tap dance class at school. So I was in kindergarten and I would stay after school and I learned how to tap dance. And the first piece that I ever did was Carmen McRae's When the Red, Red Robin Goes Bob, Bob, Bobbing Along. And it was swinging and I could sing to it. And I was grooving with a band at 5. And I couldn't understand why the other students in the class didn't have that same sense of precision or wanting to lock with the band or listen to the music. So that was my first musical memory. And of course, it's Carmen McRae, When the Red, Red Robin Goes Bob, Bob, Bobbing Along. But I was tap dancing, just like many of our icons. Sammy Davis Jr., tap dancer, singer, right? Steve Gadd, tap dancer, drummer. So it's always been this bright memory of when music made a statement to me when I was 5.
So what came after that? How did you get into your vocal?
Yeah. I started taking, after that, I was like, my parents said yes. Oh my gosh. So maybe they'll say yes to piano lessons and voice lessons. So when I was 7, I started taking piano and voice. And I was even learning to accompany myself. And I had my first gig when I was 7. I started singing weddings when I was 7 years old. So that continued on through elementary school. In middle school, I kind of quit singing because I was not happy with the choir teacher. I actually had an opinion in middle school about this guy is just not doing it for me. And I'm not going to spend my time here because it doesn't make me happy making music. So I made the choice to not do music in middle school. But then the high school teacher was recruiting and he kind of roped me in to joining the ensembles in high school. And it was in high school when the vocal jazz bug bit me. That's when I was introduced to the high-lows, the Singers Unlimited, Swingle Singers, Antonio Carlos Jobim. I was just turned on, and I was in every ensemble that I could sing in. The chorus, the select choir, a female trio. I sang with the big band. I even played a tune on the piano with the big band. And sweat my butt off because I was so nervous. But that's when it really bit me. And then I went to college, Ithaca College. I thought I was going to go into a career for musical theater. And I was pursuing that, but Ithaca College at that time did not have a musical theater degree. So I majored in acting and did as much singing and dancing as I possibly could. I really spent my time between the music school and the theater school and the community, just finding whatever I could do to fill that void for me. But it was the vocal jazz ensemble led by Dave Riley. Do you remember Dave?
You bet.
Absolutely. Our mentor, that's the class that I ran back to school for after every break. That's the class that stayed in my brain. That was the class that I wanted to do the homework for first before anything else. And I was addicted to vocal jazz and 4-part harmony. It was truly my drug of choice. It made me so happy and so high on life that I did it for 4 years. And it wasn't even part of my major, but it was eventually the beginning of the path of my life.
And if I could interrupt just a minute at this point.
Please.
Let's tell the full story.
Ha ha ha.
That group was amazing. I got to hear a recording of that group when I was the American coordinator for the Montreux Jazz Festival.
Yes.
And they were applying to come to the festival.
Mm-hmm.
And you did.
Yeah.
And you knocked everybody's socks off over there. It was just incredible. It was a professional group.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that moment. It was in 1986, and Dave Riley put together an alumni group from the school because he didn't think his present group was strong enough. You know how transient these groups are. So he put together an alumni group, and I'd been begging him for the 4 years I was in school to take us to Europe. His brother was a travel agent. So he helped us coordinate all that stuff. We did everything in-house, arrangements, wardrobe, rehearsals, got our airfare together, whatever we needed to do to make that happen. And the result was standing ovations at Montreux and North Sea. And we couldn't even believe it. We're like, what? This is the reaction that you get from doing what you love? Holy cow. So it was that response that then started the professional group of New York Voices. And Darman and Peter put together more auditions in New York to kind of reshape and reform. They didn't quite get what they wanted. And so they asked Caprice and I to come back, and we held auditions, and we found Sarah Krieger, and that was the beginning of New York Voices. And our first gig was at Town Hall with who? Dave Riley and the Ithaca College Vocal Jazz Ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
That was our first gig. So full circle, right? Things just come back. So nice.
So give us a little bit of a history of that journey that began in those days with New York Voices. I know it wasn't just an immediate success in the words of what you have today, but give us a little history.
Well, we did that first gig at Town Hall, and it was in that space where our future manager, Marianne Topper, was on her feet starting a standing ovation for us. And we had a conversation, but we didn't join forces till I think a year after that. We kept going in New York, working from club to club, working up our repertoire, making connections, calling people we had no right calling and saying, we have a gig, taking our press kit. We pounded pavement, literally, because there was no digital service. There was no social media at that time. So everything was a package or a handshake or word of mouth. And we did spread the word, and we did all the gigs that we possibly could do in the city and built up our repertoire. And within a year, we got our first record deal with GRP, with Larry Rosen and Dave Grusin. And that's pretty quick to be then joined by this machine, this inventive and pioneering machine. They were the first companies to put out CDs, which, you know, are now dinosaurs, but that back then they were their new thing. And we were on radio stations, and we were on tour with Dave Grusin and Patty Austin in Europe. It was crazy. It was beautiful. But we also, you know, we also paid our dues. We also did a cross-country motorhome tour. In a motorhome designed truly for 6. We had 11 people in this motorhome, and we drove from gig to gig to gig to gig and tried to save our pennies, but yet spread the word. Kind of, you know, like Pat Metheny in a van style. But it was a 4-headed vocal jazz group. And we crossed the country a couple times. We went to Japan and did a video in Japan, came back, drove back across the country again. So it was a lot of wear and tear, the things that you can do in your 20s. But well, we did 3 records with GRP, and, you know, they changed hands and became, was it BMG? And then I can't even remember the other one, but, you know, record labels were just flip-flopping and buying and selling and merging and separating. But we managed to keep making music. And that's kind of our greatest legacy, is that we have managed to stay together through personnel changes. In 93, I believe, or 92. That's when Lauren came on board. She took Sarah's place, who decided to venture off and become a voiceover star. And then I think a year or 2 later, Caprice decided to go on her way as well, and we remained a quartet. Yeah, we were always trying to not be Manhattan Transfer, but we were always compared to them because there just aren't that many groups that do what we do. So you kind of have to say, yeah, they're kind of like Manhattan Transfer, but different.
Mm-hmm. And you indeed were.
Yeah.
Now, this next question that I'm going to ask you, it may be hard to answer, so please excuse me if it is. But can you give us maybe 2 highlights out of the years with New York Voices that stand out?
Oh gosh, there are a number of them. I mean, I think when you ask me that question, the first thought that comes to mind is Carnegie Hall. Mm-hmm. It's like we made it to Carnegie Hall. And I remember it was a double bill with Take 6, which was just an honor unto itself. And I remember practicing for this, preparing for this. My teacher even came and warmed me up backstage at Carnegie Hall. And I remember our wardrobe, the photos, my parents were there. And I knew that I had to hit that high note perfectly in our chart at Carnegie Hall. And I can still remember taking that breath, hitting that note, hearing the crowd, and just reveling in the fact that my peers and I made it to Carnegie Hall. So that was a huge, huge memory. I guess the other memory that pops into my brain is standing on stage with Ray Brown in Espoo, Finland. It's rare when I have to share another one. Sorry, there's another one after that. Because when time stands still for you, you know this is a moment to hang on to. And when I was standing in front of Ray Brown, thinking, this is where Ella stood while I was singing, I was like, oh my God, what an honor that is. Not to just be playing music with one of the greatest jazz players in the world, Ray Brown, but to also think about the history and to know where you are and who you are and where you've come to get there. That was incredible. And another moment where time stood still and we were elevated to another place that we couldn't get on our own was when Bobby McFerrin stepped onto the stage with us and sat in on Stolen Moments and opened it up, and we all improvised. And I wasn't an improviser as much as I am today. Back then, that was a new thing for me. And he just said yes. And I went, okay. And I took my 16 bars, and I'd never improvised like that before in my life. But it was because Bobby McFerrin was holding the space for us to do what we had done fairly well up to then. But then he kind of brought us up to a new level that, again, you just never forget these intangible moments where this musical energy is created that you get to, relive in your memory and hopefully share and teach other students. And hopefully we've done that for other people. So those are three moments where the clock stood still for me in our career with New York Voices. And I'm sure if you asked any of them, they would have three other moments too.
Thank you so much for sharing those, Kim. You gave me three goosebump moments.
I'm about to cry, so I think you need to change. You need to ask me another question.
Absolutely. And out of that growth, as you were coming through your years, you became involved as a clinician, a festival adjudicator, and a teacher. And wondering what suggestions you might make to students wishing to pursue the world of vocal jazz.
I guess the first suggestion I would make is that you have to make sure you love it. You have to make sure that you love it. If you are going to make a commitment to a person, a pet, a career, you have to love it. You have to be passionate about it. You have to be willing to give 150% of who you are and what you are, and learn even more while you're trying to teach them. So that my first suggestion is that you have to love it. You have to be willing to learn for the rest of your life, because this idiom, this jazz umbrella, is huge. And you will never be done learning. No matter how famous you are or how many awards you win, you will never be done, because there's always somebody making something new, because the jazz umbrella is so welcoming. We welcome new cultures, right? And it's such a, I think it's such a brain, heart, soul idiom that you have to be able to work and juggle all of these things while you continue to learn and embrace and love and be passionate about this music form, this idiom, this genre. So I guess those would be my two suggestions. Love it, always learn it, and live it. For me, it's part of the way I live life. If you can embrace improvisation, if you can embrace listening to other people, having a musical conversation, that's what happens on the stage in jazz. Then I think the music will fulfill you, and you will fulfill the music.
Really important words from a real pro.
Oh, thank you so much.
I want to congratulate you on one of your most recent honors. You were honored by JEN, the Jazz Education Network, as the 2023 Jazz Educator of the Year. Oh. Kim, congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's sitting right back there. It's the clear circle there, right there.
Uh-huh.
It's right there. And honestly, I was shocked, but so pleasantly surprised and honored by this. And I think about it, and it's like, oh, my year is almost up. Like this is going to go to somebody else now. And I wonder who it's going to be. I wonder who they're going to recognize. And I guess the things that I cherish most is that I was the first female to win this award. And I was the first vocal jazz person to win this award. So I accepted this for everyone, you know, that was also nominated for this. And I know there are hundreds of teachers out there deserving of this award. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows how much I appreciate all the work that goes on, and that I am grateful for my year of recognition, and I don't take it lightly. And I will continue on this path with all the fervor and dignity and integrity that I can for this genre and for music educators everywhere.
You are such a fabulous person. You know, It's just not, I'm not talking just about music. You're just a fabulous person. So share with us your view on the importance of Jen, and how can that help to enhance jazz education?
Well, I think it's vital that we have an organization that brings us together at least once a year, besides all of the services and awards and scholarships and music. I think it's one of those validating moments in the year that that we can be proud of. I'm very proud of this organization. And I love that we come together and we share information. We learn from each other. I mean, we're all isolated in our colleges or in our classrooms. But here at this convention, we get to come together and we get to see what's new. We get to see what's affirmed and reaffirmed by what we're doing that feels right, and other people are doing the same thing. You go, oh, okay, so I'm on the right track with that. Or, oh, wow, I never thought of that. Or let's bridge this gap between the instrumental world and the vocal world. Let's bridge this gap between the classical world and the jazz world, right? Let's see what other things we can do to share what we love so much. And I think that Jen does that for us. We get to hear music. We get to learn about music. We get to see people that we love, right? And we get to meet new people. So it forges these, I think, friendships, connections. It's a networking situation. I think people get excited by being together, and by turning new people onto Jen, whether it's a student or a new teacher, or I'm trying to bring in a friend from London in and say, come on, check this out. Your student needs to be auditioning for this. Let's continue to make this an international thing as well. So it's fun, it's exciting. I'm proud, and I will always support it.
I agree with you. It's such a fabulous organization, and you've really touched on the heartbeat of it. Mm-hmm. Now, we've barely touched on your recordings aspect of your career. Let's go there a little bit and talk about some of those inspiring recordings and maybe some of the most memorable projects that you're involved in.
Well, I guess some of the most incredible ones were probably not the most popular ones. We did a contemporary classical CD of Rilke poetry. It was originally called The Ancient Tower, and now it is called Visions Within. And I've got to say, it was probably the most difficult recording that we've ever done as New York Voices. I think I sang and used every note in my range that I could possibly use in this recording. And I even had to have Darman come into the studio and conduct me, because one section was in 3 different meters and it was so high that I didn't want to have to keep doing it. So I was like, I need a little help here. I've got the music. I'm ready. I know I can sing it, but my brain just goes off into these other meters. So I need a visual. I need you to conduct me through this. So he did, and I nailed it. And that was incredible. That was an incredible moment for me. But the music was so intense that I couldn't listen to it when it first came out. I kind of had to let it sit. And when I did listen to it, I had to be still. It wasn't background music. I really had to critically listen to this music. So I love that project for that reason. I guess another project that people don't know about is a recording of an old Irving Berlin musical that we did called The Louisiana Purchase. The lyrics are very outdated and perhaps a bit offensive, but it was such a fun project. It was outside of the box of what New York Voices normally did. And we performed the music at Carnegie Hall in the recital hall. But we were in the studio with Rob Fisher. And that was just such a fun project, especially for my musical theater blood. You know, I was all over that. I loved that. Let's see. I guess the other two outside projects that I'm really proud of is the Bobby McFerrin recording called Vocabularies, which we are all on as side people, but I was one of the top 4 voices putting in the hours for that project for Vocabularies. And then I'm going to do a little self-promotion, my solo CD called Some Morning that I did with my husband. So I'm really, really proud of my own work and hope to do another one soon.
Great. So, you know, you're in a position where a lot of people that listen to this are going to want to ask questions about the current status of jazz and jazz education, not only in this country, but throughout the world.
Yeah.
What kind of suggestions could you offer to students or future educators or actual educators on making sure the future is bright?
Well, I mean, I think we all have to take ownership of that, and we all have to be responsible for that. But I believe in the music. I don't think the music's ever going to die. The music will live on, whether it's instrumentally or vocally, whether it's a soloist or a group. The music is so incredibly good, and it speaks volumes about our history, about who we are. But it's like anything else. You can only introduce people to it. You can't make them like it or make them love it. I would ask those in power in academia and the world of education that we introduce this music to our children in kindergarten, and that they don't have to wait till they're in high school to finally be turned on to jazz. Right? I have done workshops with kindergartners. They've improvised. They've learned licks, big band licks, right? They dance to it. They're excited by it. So I would ask that we start young, that we introduce, and that it's part of our education. It kills me that music educators literally get 2 hours, not 2 credit hours, 2 hours, 120 minutes of jazz in their degrees, right? In their overall music courses. If those people are then asked to conduct a vocal jazz choir or a big band, they're really not fully equipped to do this, which is one of the reasons New York Voices started our camp, our vocal jazz camp, was to kind of jumpstart and give teachers a shot in the arm and say, there's nothing to be afraid of. Let's break this down, put it together. You're going to learn 3 charts in 6 days, and you're going to learn how we do it. One way to teach vocal jazz, but maybe we'll take the fear away. So let's start early. Let's get it into our jazz curriculum at a substantial level, and let's take the fear away that's around vocal jazz, because it's just so much fun. It's kind of like trying a new food, you know, don't be afraid. Try it. You'll like
it. Go for it, right?
Right? Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times New York Voices has been that pathway for people. It's like, wow, I never really liked jazz, but I like what you guys do. I'm like, wow, that's cool. You know, and we have multi-generational people in our audience, you know, families come and listen. So yeah, it's about awareness and trying things and not being afraid.
So, my dear friend, what's on the horizon for you and New York Voices?
Well, for me personally, I am doing something for the first time. I'm the artistic director of the DeMuro Jazz Festival in Washington. So I've just finished my first term, and I'm renewing that contract with them. So that's a really fun thing for me to put together, and it's all part of jazz education, you know, in the Pacific Northwest, and exposing them to, you know, the worldwide artist community that I know about and would like to share with people. I'm writing a book on vocal technique. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my new pet projects. I'm sure I'll do at least one more recording in my lifetime with my husband. We'll try to do that. I'm raising a jazz bass player. My son is a bassist in Boston. New York Voices, what's new on the horizon? We are doing a tribute to Dave Grusin, which I'm just so incredibly proud of, in New Jersey. So we're part of that program. And one of my bucket lists was to do a concert with a dance company. And we are finally doing that in Washington at the Kennedy Center with one of my favorite choreographers and his dance company. And it will be in tribute to the great female vocal jazz artists. So New York Voices will be on stage with a dance company. And I'm just so excited for that, because there's my musical theater, right? Singing, dancing, acting. Let's do it all. So those are some of the things. I think we're heading to Europe again in October and playing Ronnie Scott's in London. And our festival, actually, the New York Voices Vocal Jazz Festival outside of Chicago, where we have 6 high schools and 6 colleges come, and we clinic them, and they get to perform for each other, and we do a concert at night. That's getting back up on its feet since COVID. This is the first time since COVID. So we have our festival, our camps, my book, a couple wonderful concerts in the works, and on my festival. So still juggling, still doing it, still dreaming.
And the Red Robin keeps full circle, right? Can't begin to tell you how much this interview has meant to me. I've known you and followed your wonderful career and all of the wonderful things that you have done. And I just hope and pray that the people that are watching this interview take it in all of the sincerity and love that you put it out in. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, sir. You were one of the first people to say yes to New York Voices. And we need people like you that believe in us and that see something. So you are also a visionary, and you're still going. And I'm so happy to be a part of this and connected to you. And it's not over. We're not done.
Oh, no. That's right.
Thank you so much, Kim. Some great experiences shared there. To our viewers, thanks for joining us today for this Jazz Zone Together interview. Please check out the entire library of interviews. We know you'll find them of real value to your program. Watch for updates as we're adding new interviews regularly.